What if I told you that BMW secretly built a car that was never supposed to exist? A forbidden machine. One that could have changed car culture forever. It had the heart of an M3, the practicality of a wagon, and the soul of a legend. But instead of unleashing it, BMW locked it away. Hidden, unspoken, forgotten. Almost this is the story of the BMW E46 M3 Touring, the M3 wagon that BMW never gave us. The one fans begged for. The one they teased, but never delivered. This isn't just a what-if story, it's a real one. And by the end, you're going to be asking yourself the same thing every car enthusiast has asked for the last 20 years. Why didn't they just make it? Today, we're diving deep into the truth behind one of BMW's biggest missed opportunities. From secret prototypes and executive politics to fan-made builds and the emotional weight of what never happened, this is everything you didn't know about the E46 M3 wagon, but wish you did. Alright, before we talk about the wagon that never came, let's get something straight. The E46 M3 wasn't just a great car. It was the car. It was everything that made BMW's M Division magical: raw, balanced, beautiful, and just aggressive enough to slap a grin on your face every time you stepped on the gas. Produced from 2000 to 2006. The E46 M3 had a 3.2-liter inline-six S54, for the nerds out there, producing 333 horsepower. Rear-wheel drive, manual transmission, naturally aspirated, no fake sound, no fluff. It's just pure analog driving pleasure. It's widely considered the best M3 ever made. And here's the thing. It came in a coupe. It came in a convertible. It never came in a wagon. Why not? Audi was building the RS for Avant. Mercedes had their AMG wagons. The world was ready for fast, practical cars. But BMW? They looked at their crown jewel and said, "Nah, let's keep this one for the purists." Or did they? Let's back up. In the early 2000s, wagons weren't just for dads in khakis. They were fast, mean, and quietly badass. The Audi RS for Avant was crushing it in Europe. Volvo had their turbocharged wagons flying under the radar. Mercedes was stuffing V8 South into estates like it was no big deal, so the market was there. People wanted something that could drop the kids off at school and still dust a Porsche on the Autobahn. BMW already had the regular 3 Series Touring, so why didn't they slap that S54 engine in, add the M treatment, and give us an E46 M3 wagon? Answer is calm PL-Cat Ed. So let's pull back the curtain and talk about what was really going on inside BMW in the early 2000s, because this is where the whole M3 Touring story goes from just disappointing to downright frustrating. You had the E46 M3, BMW's crown jewel at the time. Journalists couldn't stop praising it. Drivers were obsessed. Car culture embraced it like a gift from the performance gods. It had the power, the balance, the look, and that naturally aspirated inline-six that still sends chills down spines today. It was a masterpiece. Now here's the wild part. BMW had the perfect recipe sitting right there. They already made a regular 3 Series Touring. They already had the S54 engine and the 6-speed manual. They already had all the M3 suspension and chassis tuning done. So putting 2 and 2 together wasn't some crazy engineering challenge, but they didn't do it. Not because they couldn't, but because they chose not to. At the time, BMW was stuck in this rigid mindset. They saw M cars as purebred performance machines, focused, built for the twisties and track days. In their eyes, wagons didn't belong in that world. Wagons were for dog owners, for families, for utility, not for carving through mountain roads or tearing up Nürburgring lap times. To them, mixing the M badge with a wagon was crossing some sacred line. They were obsessed with image, with tradition, with preserving what the M badge meant. And apparently, practicality didn't fit into that picture. But here's the thing, they were already blurring those lines themselves. The M3 was never some bare-bones trick-only machine. It came with leather seats, a banging sound system, sat-nav, heated seats, and even a convertible version. You're telling me that's okay? But a wagon isn't. This is where it gets really interesting. Because behind the scenes, inside BMW M, there were engineers, real car guys who got it. They knew the E46 chassis had the potential. They knew the touring version could handle the power. They were itching to break the mold and do something bold. And guess what? They did. They didn't just dream about it. They actually built a fully functional E46 M3 Touring. Not some sketch, not a design study. A real, drivable prototype. It had everything: flared arches, M wheels, quad exhausts, the full S54 engine, the 6-speed manual, all the M-tuned suspension and brakes. It looked like it rolled straight out of a showroom, but this wasn't a public project. It was done, quietly, almost in secret. The kind of thing that only leaks out years later. BMW's engineers called it a feasibility study. In simple terms, they built it just to prove they could. And they proved it all right. The prototype was so clean, so production-ready, that if you saw it today, you'd swear it was sold to the public. But it wasn't. BMW shelved it, tucked it away, buried the dream. Why? Because when the bean counters and boardroom execs ran the numbers, they didn't like what they saw. Releasing another body style meant new crash testing, emission suits, production adjustments, extra marketing, and potential risk to the M3's image. From a cold, hard business point of view, just didn't seem worth it. They saw a niche, a small market. They feared it wouldn't sell enough to make sense, so they canned it. Meanwhile, Audi was going full send with the Rs for Avant. Mercedes was stuffing V8 South into wagons. The world was waking up too fast to States and BMW. They blinked, and in that blink, they missed the chance to build something legendary. That's the part that hurts the most. The E46 M3 Touring wasn't impossible. It wasn't too expensive. It wasn't unfeasible. It was real. It was ready. And it was beautiful, but because someone in a suit looked at a spreadsheet and said, nah. It never happened. And now, 20+ years later, we're still wondering what could have been. Let's talk about that prototype though. Because this isn't some rumor or photoshopped fan edit. The E46 M3 Touring really existed. BMW showed it to the world years later, casually, like it was nothing. It had the full M drivetrain. The same chassis tuning, M mirrors, M wheels, M brakes. It wasn't just a regular Touring with some stickers, it was a real M3. It was built in-house by BMW M as a feasibility study. They wanted to see if they could do it. And guess what? They nailed it. The prototype was so perfect, it didn't even look like a prototype. It looked like a production car that someone just forgot to announce. But BMW shelved it, just like that BMW might have forgotten. But the fans detoned over the years. A small army of E46 fans decided to build the car themselves. They bought base-model touring wagons, sourced M3 parts, and Frankensteined their own M3 wagons. In their garages, piece by piece. These weren't just cosmetic conversions. We're talking full-blown M3 swaps: engine, suspension, interior, the whole deal. The result? Some of the cleanest, most beautiful M3 wagons the world has ever seen. And guess what? They drive just like the real thing would. These online forums exploded. BMAR post, M3 forum. Reddit, YouTube, builds. This became a movement. People didn't just want the M3 wagon, they needed it. So here's where Tay's story takes a twist. Because after 2 full decades of saying no, BMW finally gave in. Yeah, they actually did it in 2022. 20 years after they killed the E46 M3 Touring before it could even take its first breath. BMW announced the G81 M3 Touring, a real production-ready M3 wagon, not a one-off, not a prototype, an actual car you could walk into a dealership and order. Well, depending on what country you live in, anyway. To a lot of people, this was a dream come true. After all the teasing, the silence, the missed chances, BMW had finally joined the party. It had the numbers, over 500 horsepower, all-wheel drive, a wide, aggressive stance, and most importantly, a tailgate. But here's the thing: while it was great and absolutely welcome, for many of us, it felt just a little too late, because the automotive world had already changed. The magic of the E46 Airway, the simplicity, the analog connection, the purity, that was gone. Replaced by touchscreens, fat grills, digital exhaust sounds, and drive modes with more settings than a gaming PC. The G81 is insanely fast. It's insanely capable. It probably laps the ring faster than most supercars from the early 2000s. But does it give you goosebumps the way an E46 M3 did? Does it make you feel that raw, unfiltered connection to the car and the road? Not really. And it's not even BMW's fault. It's just the reality of modern cars. Safety regulations, emissions rules, market demand. Everything's bigger, heavier, more complicated. But what makes this moment so bittersweet is that BMW had the chance to lead the performance wagon revolution 20 years ago, and they let it slip through their fingers, while Audi was flexing with the Rs for Avant, and Mercedes was laughing maniacally while stuffing AMG engines into a classy estates. BMW just sat back. They had a prototype that could have rivaled all of them, a chance to flip the entire fast wagon game on its head. And they blinked. So by the time the G81 finally arrived, it wasn't a revelation. It was more like catching up. Don't get me wrong, the G81 is badass. The fan base showed up in force. Enthusiasts finally got a proper M3 Touring. But ask any die-hard BMW fan, and they'll all say the same thing. This should have happened in 2001, because the G81 didn't just carry the weight of performance expectations.